Episode 42, fellas. How's it going?
We used to have a lot cooler intros for me. Like, you used to rhyme and do all kinds of cool stuff. Now it's just like
hailing from Dallas, Texas.
yeah, it'd be like episode 42, and you're going to stick to this like glue. But now you're like, episode 42, how you doing, guys?
You guys good? You guys good?
Well, we've been sitting here for an hour, so it's like
True.
it's the energy levels just dropped out.
We have. I thought we were going to do an interview soon.
Well, I just wanted to start the show, guys. I'm going to send you right to the interview that we just had with SB Nation writer Andy Liu. He writes for Golden State of Mind. He exclusively writes for the Warriors. And
Super knowledgeable guy.
yes,
No
so,
kidding.
So guys,
Good interview. It's a great interview.
Yeah, so I'm going to send you guys right to that interview. It's about a 30-minute long interview, so stay tuned after that, and we'll be right back and give us our thoughts on the interview and kind of break down a little standings for you guys. Thank you. All right, let's jump right into it. Thank you for joining us, Andy. I know we've got this. We're recording it a couple days later than usual. I know you had a recent move. How did the move go?
Oh yeah, it was good. Actually, the day is this Saturday. But yeah, I was moving all of my other stuff in this weekend, and I was like, I wanted to make it, but yeah, it was good. It's like in the middle of SF. I don't know if you guys have ever been to San Francisco. It's in the middle, next to a bunch of hipster spots. So I'm sure that will be interesting in the next couple. I lived in SF, but I was near like the beach, so I was there like in the middle of nowhere, where there's like nothing going on, and now I'm moved to where everything is going on. So it's gonna be quite the adventure. But I've lived here my whole life. So.
All right, well that's good. Yeah, I know moving. Did you have a strong right hand man, or no assist? Did you go assist free?
No, I had a couple of my boys that do it, and then I bribed them into it. We had Korean. I don't know if you guys ever had Korean barbecue. It's like all you can eat.
Oh my God,
So I bribed them into that. You guys have had it?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Dude, yeah. Hey man, that stuff is phenomenal.
I would have flown out to San Francisco to help you move for that Korean barbecue itself.
So you guys have that around there, huh? Okay, I had no idea. Or is it some place entirely you guys go to?
No, I mean, I've been to LA. I've never been to San Francisco, unfortunately. I mean, I would like to, but
Nah, if you go to LA, they've got better ones down there. And LA is cheaper, and the quality is better. So I lived in SoCal for 2 years. I lived in San Diego for college. So yeah, LA is better. SF is just more expensive, man. It's just more expensive and it looks prettier.
nice.
But,
Did you go to San Diego State? Did you go to San Diego State?
I went to UC San Diego.
Okay.
So about 30 minutes. Is that what you guys know? You guys been there?
Yeah, well, I used to date a girl, actually. She lives in Jacksonville, but she went to San Diego State for a little while. So, yeah.
Ranger school.
It is a Ranger school, I know. But I didn't date her for her smarts. It was purely looks. It's a very shallow relationship.
Hey, that's San Diego though, bro. I was in La Jolla. That's how it was. La Jolla is like ridiculous. It's just all beaches, 75 degrees year round with like an ocean breeze. If I could live there, I would, but there are no jobs. So what can you do?
Yeah.
What can you do?
Yeah, you got to go where the work is.
Yep.
Well, let's rewind and start back at Monday night, Andy. You were at the game, the record-breaking game.
Yes, I was.
What was the feeling in the arena that and I'm referring to the Orlando Magic. Your guys went over the Orlando Magic.
Man, it was an interesting atmosphere. I would say that the crowd was into it. They were loud. I've complained about the crowd quite a bit this year and then last year's postseason, mainly because they aren't as loud as they used to be, and they don't necessarily cheer when the team is down. Now, this year's been a little bit different. The crowd has been loud when the team has struggled, and the team struggled throughout this game, really. And when they finally won the game, and Steph, was getting Draymond Green address the crowd, it was a good atmosphere. It wasn't necessarily insane, mainly because I think the Warriors are bored, and I think the fans are a little bit spoiled at this point. They're used to seeing something this great. They're used to seeing another NBA record broken, and I think that's causing a little bit of boredom. The team is slumping, and the fans themselves are a little bit, not a little bit reserved.
All right. Well, I mean, that's a good segue to the first question I kind of had for you, and that's what's it like writing for this team? I mean, are you running out of material? Or I mean, do you want to see a locker room fight to just give you something else to write about?
Hey, I'm going to be honest with y'all. Do you remember that game against the Thunder and when Lisa Salters was talking about Draymond, with that halftime screen fest?
Yeah. I was actually going to ask you about that shortly. Like, because I mean, and anybody that's not a Thunder fan is kind of hoping that Draymond is tearing up that team. Like, I was like, yes. Like, I heard that, and I was like, yes, hit somebody, do something crazy. Like, I want to hear, like, oh, Draymond tore up the team. Like, he came out of the locker room steaming. But then, then they came back and had that epic three-point shot to win the game. And I feel like that erased everything that Draymond did. But, yeah, absolutely talk a little bit about what was going on in that.
So those two things intertwine. And they intertwine because throughout this year, I wouldn't say, I take it for granted, mainly because I get to go to the games, but there are a lack of storylines. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that the team lacks for accomplishments or things to write about. There are things to write about how great they are, how great they can be, all this, how great they've been. But, there's a certain point of how many features can be written about the same guy, Steph Curry, Clay, Draymond. How many times can we say these guys are great? How many times can we talk about Kerr, coming back from injury, Wall, all these things? I ran out of ideas. So when Draymond, when that happened with Draymond, I was ecstatic. I am a Warriors fan. I used to be, but nowadays I'm a little bit more reserved in regards to cheering on the team. It's more fun to sit back and just, be entertained by what's going on, because that's what sports is, and that's what this Warriors team is about. And so when that happened, I really was like, yo, there's finally something I can write about, something I can talk about. And I think there is something to be said to the notion that this is maybe a long-term problem. Now, I don't think it's an issue right now. Maybe not this year. Well, I don't think it's going to be an issue this year. I don't think it might be even an issue next year. But I think that Kobe said there's, some type of internal conflict that you need. Without Draymond, this team, for lack of a better term, would have much less aggressiveness, much less confidence, not necessarily soft, but really, not what they are now. Draymond really brings that out of them.
Sure, the man's a really triple-double machine.
Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing, he talks a lot. He yells at everyone. He even yells at Steph. And so that's the main thing I think that this is going to be something that wears on this man. I'm going to be completely upfront. It wears on guys. He's yelling at McAdoo. The guy first came back. He shoots a layup, he gets blocked, and Draymond's screaming in his face. He's always yelling at Harrison Barnes. He's always screaming at guys. Andrew Bogut. It wears on guys, and it matters. But I think at the end of the day, all this winning is good. You need that from him, and I think the players understand that. Now, this is something that gets out of hand where he's doing this, consistently. Then I'll say, hey, this is going to be a problem. But I don't think, at least for now, the next year or so, that it's going to be an issue. They need this. It's just they need to temper it down a little bit. And I think Kerr's at fault a little bit, mainly because he wants Draymond to play a certain way, and that's not his style.
Yeah, so I've heard that that Kerr and Draymond will just go at it on sidelines and cuss at each other. Is there any validity to that?
It's absolutely true. Absolutely, it's true. So there is this story, and I wasn't there to see it. I heard this where Steve Kerr actually it was I think the first year. I think it was last year's practice where Draymond was playing and Steve Kerr. It was a practice situation. And Steve was just basically telling him hey, I guess it was like a pretty soft practice. And Kerr was like, hey, Dre. He basically told him hey, I don't think you can guard him. I don't think you can guard the guy. And then Draymond immediately goes back and just screams at Kerr. He's like, what do you mean I can't guard him? Blah, blah, blah. Obviously not that tame. But he screams at him. And then by the time Dre is done getting fired up and he goes back on the court to actually play, Steve Kerr turns around and he goes, we've got him. And in that moment, it's kind of like, yo, that's when you screaming at each other really gets Draymond going, and that's how Steve Kerr and Draymond's relationship is, and that's why sometimes it spirals out of control. Even Steve said that was a little bit unusual in the locker room. So you can say in that one instance it was a little bit out of character, but that's how they are. That's how the relationship is, and they're good friends off the court. So it's not something, like I said, it's not something that's necessarily bad unless it's to unless it's sustainable in the long run.
Sure, you just got to poke the bear every once in a while. Just get him up. You know, he's hibernating sometimes. You got to poke him.
Kerr, real quick. Kerr, I compare Kerr, who has lineage from Phil Jackson and Greg Popovich. He is both of those coaches in one. It's not to say he's better than other or whatnot, but he has the values that he does, the values that he has, and a lot of the styles that he does, very similar. So with Phil Jackson, Kerr plays a lot of mind games. So he pretty much said that yesterday's win was awesome, all this, all that. But he also went at it like this, way too many turnovers, not enough shooting. We can't blame this on injuries. And he says, I think this team is they are thinking that these games are too easy for them, which they are. But he's saying the reason why we're struggling is they think it's too easy, and that's not the case. They're trying to make this spectacular by doing spectacular things. He was saying sometimes the simple is the spectacular, and there's no need for us to play this way because we're bored, because it's too easy. And then he's Popovich in the way that he is very stringent on what he wants to see, whereas Luke Walton was not that way. So with the team, Luke Walton pretty much let them do what they wanted to do, and with Kerr, he doesn't like Draymond shooting threes early in the shot clock. He doesn't like Draymond checking himself in to get triple doubles. He really harps on that, and so he's a mesh of those two coaches, and I think that he might have overstepped a little bit with Draymond, but overall, he's one of the better coaches in the NBA, of course.
Well, that kind of moves me right into the point. Steve Kerr's been on the bench just over a month. I think he got back in the end of January. What have you seen change since his return to the bench?
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no. I was just saying you kind of touched on that with the Draymond. His shot, his 3-point shot is actually decreased. I was aware of that.
Yeah, so that's an interesting one, mainly because I personally thought nothing was going to change because they were playing so well. I thought Kerr didn't want to mess anything up. So yeah, I think he's thinking long term. And when Walton was the coach, like I said, they were doing anything, turnovers, anything was acceptable at that point. This isn't to say Luke Walton is a bad coach. He has his own style, but I think Kerr sees a long run. He essentially is the type of coach that is trying to rein them back in. He is the main teacher, where Luke Walton was the substitute teacher. The guys love him, but he needs to rein them in at a certain point because he knows that when the situation calls for it, in the playoffs, the finals, he's going to need these guys to perform in the manner that they did last year. And I don't think that the team replicated that playing the Luke Walton style, mainly because the players were, I wouldn't say, prisoners were running the asylum or whatever the phrase is, but there is something to be said where Kerr has to, recreate some of that procedure, some of that process they had last year. They were getting a little bit away from that. So I'm gonna say that the coaches were a little bit happy that they got blown out by the Lakers, mainly because the focus sometimes isn't there.
Yeah, definitely a loss is sometimes a good thing, especially when you're sitting at 56-6. And it's pretty crazy that y'all are sitting at 56-6, chasing the record of the all-time record, and you have a 3.5 game lead over the San Antonio Spurs. It's pretty crazy to think about. What do you think is the best formula to beat Golden State in a 7-game series?
Man, I'm gonna sound like so much like a fan here. I am biased, of course. I think most of anybody is.
Yeah, it's all right to be a little biased.
I don't think that the Warriors can be beat. This iteration of the Warriors. Last year, if you had asked me last year, I would have given you some answers. This year, I don't think this iteration of the Warriors against these teams in the NBA right now, which I think is one of the most talented, NBA seasons in the history of basketball, just because of athleticism nowadays and coaching and preparation. I don't think they can be beat in a 7-game series. I think that there are ways to fluster them. There are ways to win a couple games against them. I don't think sustainably you can do that. So you can go small against them with more athletic players. I think the Thunder can do that. So in that manner, you can fluster Steph Curry. You can take away Draymond's pick and roll, pick and pop in that case, and dare Andre Iguodala to shoot. that way. You can play small. They have the athletes to do it, and they have Kevin Durant to play offense to score enough. But how sustainable is one guy going to be in a 7-game series? You're going to essentially need Kevin Durant to be Michael Jordan and then have everybody else play out of their mind, which I don't think is possible to win 4 out of 7 times. And then if you're the Spurs, you're going to need your flow offense with guys that can't really dribble to dice up a Warriors offense that, when they are actually trying in crunch time, absolutely annihilate other teams. And I don't think the Spurs necessarily play enough defense, especially if you're going to play Duncan and Marcus Aldridge at the same time. So I think that those teams are going to be able to win a couple games. I think the Cavs showed that. But I don't think winning 4 times out of 7 is possible. It's going to be too tall of a task because there are just too many flaws with other teams. If Draymond's hobbled or Draymond's injured, if he can't shoot the 3, then there you go.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable how healthy Golden State has stayed during this run in between last year and this year. I think if anybody can beat them, I think it's going to be the Cavs. I'm looking forward, and I think we're going to see it. And I'm really looking forward to seeing LeBron with some weapons. I mean, he had nothing last year against the Cavs.
Right. I agree, absolutely. No, go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off there.
Yeah, I was just saying I'm really looking forward to that matchup. And I think if anybody can beat Golden State, I think the Cavs can. You think? I don't think they can, but I'm just saying I think they give them the best. What we've seen LeBron do by himself single-handedly, you give him Kevin Love, you give him Kyrie, I think they have a puncher's chance for sure.
I agree with that, but on a different aspect, mainly because we know that they'll be there, right? We know that they're going to be the team that's going to coast through the Eastern Conference playoffs, which I say that, but I can see them losing a couple games and maybe drawing out a series, in 7 games against the Raptors or the Pacers. Now, I don't think that's going to happen, but I do think that's possible as well. But I think at the end of the day, we'll see the Cavs there, pretty much unscathed. With the Western Conference, I think that the Thunder and the Spurs are going to have to play each other in the second round. So you're like, well, these guys are going to go 6-7 games against each other. You're like, and then you get the Clippers maybe in the first round, and with Blake Griffin back, that's not going to be easy. So I think that that's something that is an issue on the Western Conference side. I think to your point about Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love, the style that the Cavaliers played last year in the finals was the drag-out style that really flustered the Warriors. The Grizzlies did the same thing, and the Warriors were caught up again with the Cavs. That's why they lost 2 games. Now, if we were to insert Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love into those places, I think the defense goes down about 25. Now, if we're talking about a game where the Cavs won, say, I think it was like 95, like 90, right? They were winning defensive games. If they're going to try to play an offensive shootout with the Warriors, or try to go small with the Warriors, I just think that's going to be a bad idea, mainly because Draymond is going to erase Kevin Love, and Kyrie, while I think he is a very good player, still doesn't know how to run around a screen. So I do think that they'll be there, and they'll be able to win a couple games. I just think that the defense is just a really, really bad issue. And if they're going to play Kevin Love at the 5, which I think they should, and play LeBron at the 4, I think this is their best chance. That's going to be, that's going to be even more of an issue. But, I mean, you're going to have to hope that Steph Curry misses a lot and that it can be a 120 to 120 kind of shootout kind of game, which would be fun for us fans, NBA fans.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm actually a big Cavaliers fan, and it's unfortunate that it probably will be Golden State that we see, because Kyrie has actually let up the most points against opposing point guards this season of any point guard, because he really, you're right, he can't run around a screen, and defensively he's very weak. So playing the best point guard in the world kind of scares me, because he could go off for 50, 60 points every night, and then Kevin Love is just not put in anything that I've seen that's gonna help defensively or even offensively. Him just chilling at the 3-point line, and shooting a very below average 25 to 30%, during a series is never going to hurt or help us.
Yeah, and I think this is something that I wouldn't say is necessarily fixable by LeBron just simply playing power forward, which he does. I think it's more that there's a little bit of urgency that the Warriors create in everyone, and I think that the rest of the league knows that really there's no chance at this point if you're not the Thunder, if you're not the Cavs, if you're not the Spurs. And I think a little bit of this is hurting LeBron, where he's like, I've got a couple prime years left in him, and he's already declining, although he's still a great great player. He's got maybe 2, 3, 4 years left as a prime player, and he's thinking if it's not going to be now, when is it going to be? And I don't think that's the same mindset for guys like Kevin Love or Kyrie Irving. I do think Kyrie Irving is a much better player than what people are saying he is. I just think Kevin Love is not, which hurts Kevin Love at this point. Which hurts the Cavs. So
no, I completely agree. I think Kyrie is shooting so poorly beyond the arc. Last year he was shooting 42%. Now he's shooting less than 35%. And he's just playing really. Usually he's able to shake somebody up and start really showing his ball handling skills. I haven't seen many games where he's done that this year. Kevin Love, I think you're exactly dead on that he showed his true colors in Minnesota. He was a big fish in a little pond. He was a double machine, and now with some offense, and the pieces are not there. They're not fitting. As much as I regret it and I hate it, I wish it was another story. I wish he can kind of Chris Bosh it, but he's not, and it's not working.
No, that's I think, and not to throw this all Cavaliers way, but I think that the Warriors have made it. I say like a sample size thing. Kevin, the net ratings for lineups with, say, Duncan and LaMarcus Aldridge are superb. The lineups with Kevin Love at the 4, LeBron at the 3 are superb. You can argue all of these things. But at the end of the day, are they superb? Are they great against that one team coming out of the Bay Area? Are they great, against that pick and roll against the Warriors, against that small lineup? And it's not. So even though the numbers are great, team-wise, and, the Cavs are obviously bored. That's why they're not playing well. At the end of the day, it's the small sample size where it's not good against one team, and sometimes that's all that matters. I will say this, though. I think if the Cavs play the Thunder, they do win, and I think if the Cavs play the Spurs, they also have a really good chance of winning. It's just that if you're a Cavs fan, I think you're going to have to hope that the Warriors somehow get knocked out by the Spurs. Yeah, I don't think they're going to get knocked out by the Thunder.
Andy, I kind of wanted to go back to Steph. This season, he's shooting over half his shots from behind the arc, which is the most he's shot behind the arc. He accounts for 32% of the offense. He is the horsepower of the Golden State offense. And I know Steve Kerr even said about it on the Lakers, we're relying too much on Steph. And you saw what a bad shooting night does against a horrible team, which they probably melted against the Lakers. Which Western Conference point guard can give Steph the most problems defensively? Because I think Chris Paul might be a solid matchup in the second round, and beyond that, I don't know who else can kind of slow him down.
That's a good question. That's a good one. He's had trouble this year against 2 players I can think of, and they're both in the Eastern Conference. He's had some issues with Avery Bradley, although he's toasted him a couple times. But this season he struggled in the one game that they played against each other. And then the other game he struggled against Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. So, and that one's also in the East. So unless the Cavs pick those guys up, I don't think anybody in the West is going to necessarily slow him down. Not even Chris Paul. I used to say Chris Paul, but nowadays it's more of Steph has figured him out. He can run him off screens. He can dribble by him. He's quicker than him. He's taller than him, so he can just get off a shot against him like he did against Ty Lawson in the playoffs. I used to say it was Chris Paul mainly because Chris Paul is the greatest. He can slip through screens like nothing. He's always grabbing some threats, all these dirty little cheap tricks that Bogut and Draymond are so great at. So I would say CP3 is your best bet in the West. Beyond that, maybe I would say Beverly, but these are guys that used to bother Steph like 2 years ago, right? A year or two ago, before he hit his MVP form last year, and then now he's reached some other pantheon that I can't even describe. So now that he's reached this level, I can't really think of anyone, to be completely honest. It's gonna be if he gets injured or not. I think it's a matter of that. He played bad in last year's playoffs. Not bad, but relatively not as great as as normal. But I think some of that is a testament to the Warriors getting a little bit shook and getting kind of nervous on the big stage. Don't think that happens again this year.
Yeah, it definitely shows by Andre Iguodala getting the MVP of the finals. That shows that he was a little shaken up and not playing his best. And that is, also that kind of has a lot to do with Dellavedova was kind of a gnat all over him, and I could see that being frustrating having to play him 7 games in a row. And going back to just point guards, watching so many matchups this year, I always am hoping, I'm like, please, somebody shut down Steph Curry. I want to see somebody play some good defense against him, and he really just tears up everybody that he plays, and it's as a Cavaliers fan, it's tough to watch to say, all right, well, my Kyrie Irving is hopefully not having to play him in the finals, but if he does, boy, he's gonna be embarrassed.
Well, here's the thing about Steph, too, which I always found interesting because he's a little bit different from other superstars, is that he really doesn't necessarily care who gets the credit or who gets the shot. So when teams used to trap Steph on those pick and rolls, when they start figuring, hey, if we trap him, we can get the ball out of his hands, what the hell are the Warriors going to do? Steph would easily pass it, and you really didn't care if it was like Carl Landry shooting the shot. There was a game where he passed it up to Carl Landry for a game winner, wide open, like 15-footer. Landry missed it. And Warrior fans, if you're a fan of anybody, you're like, if you're the best player, you're going to have to shoot that shot. Actually, this was a lot to do with LeBron when he was starting to come up as a superstar as well. It was, hey, shoot the shot. Don't worry about making the right decision. If you're the best player in the world, shoot that shot. Steph Curry is not like that. Much like LeBron, he's going to make that correct play. And a lot of the time, that correct play is simply throwing the ball between that double team and just giving it to Draymond so Draymond can run that 4-on-5 play. And in the NBA Finals, you saw a lot of that. And I think a lot of that has to do with Draymond exploding as a playmaker and hitting whoever it is in the corner, and that's why Iguodala and Harrison Barnes are so valuable. Now, one can say those guys are great, and that makes Steph great, but I argue Steph is great, and it makes everyone else look great. And I think it's a testament to Steph because I think that while the Warriors supporting cast is really, really, really good, they're nowhere near as close as they are without Steph Curry, and I think this applies to Klay Thompson, Harrison Barnes, and even Draymond Green.
I got you, Andy. Well, I want to thank you so much for giving us all the Warrior insight, and I kind of want to get you out on one final thought. This year, up until the recent loss to the Pacers, San Antonio had the highest margin of victory of all time. I think it was somewhere over 12.5 points per game. As it stands right now, both the Warriors and the Spurs are going to have similar margin of victories over 10 points. And there's only been 10 teams in the NBA history that have done this. With that being said, obviously these two are the cream of the crop. What does that say about the league? Do you think that other teams are kind of diluted? And do you think in retrospect, some of the, if the Warriors are to get the record, is this something that they're going to poke at? Because they always seem to poke at something.
I think that's a great question. Actually, I really like this one mainly because it segues right into all the quote unquote haters, right? All the retired players that have come out and spoke against the Warriors and things like that, right? This goes right into that. And this is a question that is going to be a main talking point when the Warriors win, this next championship, these next 2 championships. There's always going to be something. I think most of the hate comes from the fact that why the hell is there a 6'3", skinny guy from a college that nobody has ever heard of dominating the NBA full of athletes who are 6'8", 6'9", with huge standing verticals, crazy athleticism. Going up to Draymond, who's about 6'5", going up to Steph Curry, these are normal guys. They're not LeBron James. They're not Kobe Bryant. You can tell right off the bat those guys are, athletes. You can't really tell with the Warriors, not even Klay or something like that. They're tall, but you look at Steph, you're like, wait, this guy is the one that's dominating everybody else? Like he's dominating Anthony Davis or anybody like that. That just doesn't make sense. So I think that's where a lot of the hate stems from, because none of this makes sense. And I think when talking about the competition of the league itself, those 96 Bulls that people love, there were 2 expansion teams in that league, teams that were just starting up with players that nobody had ever heard of. Those Bulls lost the game to one of the expansion teams in that league, and so if we're talking about the strength of the league that the Warriors are playing, I would argue that the league was worse in the 95-96 season. And especially, like I said, in the NBA today, where there's so much coaching, extra coaching, too much coaching, extra preparation, medical. That's how science is, right? It's only going to get better. The players are only going to get better. And I think that while those teams are great and they will always be great, I think the Warriors are just better. That's just how it is. 20 years from now, we're going to get a better team than this Warriors team. Maybe it'll be the Philadelphia Sixers or something like that. That's just how it is. I just think that much of that hate just stems from it not making sense.
Yeah, I think
a lot of it is jealousy.
I think 100% of what you said is right, because then if you would have said 2 years ago, what is the talent in the NBA? Everybody would have said, "Oh, it's phenomenal." Are you kidding? We got Melo, we got players like LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony. Now we have Anthony Davis, Kevin Durant, guys like that. And if you would have said, "Well, I'm going to tell you that there's going to be a team that's going to win 72 games, and it's going to be a guy named Draymond Green, a guy named Harrison Barnes, Andre Iguodala," you would have been like, "Get out of here! Like, are you kidding me?" And now that they're dominating the league, it's like, "Oh, the league doesn't have talent." But 2 years ago, you would have argued the point that, like, no, the Warriors don't have talent. Like, but now now that they're owning this league, it's like, well, no, the league doesn't have talent. It's the Warriors that are so talented. But, 3 years ago, you could have said, "Who's Klay Thompson?" to me, and I would be like, I have no idea. He's a decent shooter, I think. I don't, but now he's known as being one of the better players in the NBA. So I think it is haters are just going to hate.
You're exactly right. I think that it makes it more fun, though. I think at the end of the day, I know I'm still a Warriors fan, and I think all this is entertaining. I think there have been a lot of writers that have been a little bit annoyed, like, "Hey, why are we even playing this season? All of this is boring." I think, if the Warriors were on like a 69 win pace or something, or maybe like a 68 win pace, then you're like, okay, this is a historic season, but this is not something that's truly great. But the Warriors are going for 63 wins. They're going to try to make this the greatest season of all time. And Steph Curry is going to try to finish himself individually the greatest season of all time. So I think that makes it entertaining. I think if it was something like the Spurs are doing, where they're winning a lot of games but not really going for records or anything, that makes it a tad bit monotonous and boring. But the Warriors are going for it, man. They're going for 73. They're going to try to win every single home game. Their goal is to not lose 2 games in a row. Even in the playoffs, Steph wants to break his own record, wants to hit 400 threes, wants to win the MVP. They're trying to win it all. They're trying to do everything possible. They're going to wear themselves out doing it, I think. But I think that's what makes it entertaining. I think if you're a fan, unless you're a Cavs fan, right, or a Spurs fan, it's going to be pretty annoying.
It's still entertaining, though. It's still entertaining.
Yeah, so it's fun. It's fun. It's fun to watch. It's fun to cover.
So what do you think, though? What happens? This is just what happens if they break the record and then they don't make the NBA Finals?
Ooh, that's gonna be one of the greatest moments in. I think you're gonna see every retired player in NBA history come out and just go at them.
You're not kidding.
I think, and some of the pressure I think is going to stem from that. I think the Warriors, I don't think they necessarily folded under pressure last postseason, but they played tight, and that's why they lost a couple games. They made adjustments, they won them, but a lot of that pressure, man. If you're going to win 73 games and you don't win that title,
yeah,
I think you're going to see that, though. I think you're going to see that one time in their eyes. You're going to see that, and I think it's going to be against the Spurs. I think they're going to lose a game against the Spurs. Maybe they lose it at home. Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals, they're going to lose a game, and you're going to see a little bit of self-doubt coming. You're going to see a little bit of, hey, what did we do? We win 73 games, we went all out, and we're tied 1-1 against the Spurs, or we're tied 3-3 against the Spurs. There's going to be a moment, I think, this year where these guys are going to ask themselves, could this be one of the greatest, not chokes, but embarrassments, even of all time, because the way they talk, the way they celebrate, there is going to be that. It is going to come, and I think it's going to Spurs. I don't think they'll lose, at all. But that's what makes it more fun. I think I used to cheer a lot. I used to care a lot about whether they win or not. But nowadays, it's more of I kind of want to see a Warriors Spurs game go to Game 7, just to have that pressure and entertainment and fun. But yeah, it's I know I drone on a lot, but yeah, it's interesting.
Well, Andy, we hope to reach back out to you, when the playoffs start and get some more Warriors insight. And, I enjoy reading all your work on Golden State of Mind. So keep up that good work. And, we hope to talk to you here soon.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I really appreciate it, man.
Thanks, Andy. Have a good night. All right, we are back after that interview. That guy is knowledgeable. He is a hell of an interview. What do you guys think about him?
I think he shit all over your Cavs.
Well, the Cavs right now are shitting on themselves.
I think he was very truthful and right.
No, I agree with every single thing that he said. Like, I mean, about the West, really. I mean, other than those three teams, and you could kind of say the Clippers as well, but there's really not too much.
Yeah.
Team-wise, talented teams out there.
I think that there's more of a chance that they do not win the title, probably more than he thinks, though. I mean, I'm not saying that they don't win the title, but I don't think that there's no way. But he watches them a lot more, and he's a fan too. So I mean, it's tough.
Sure.
If you're a fan of a team that's that good, to think anybody could beat you it's gonna be tough to get that thought process.
I know you had the 67 win Mavericks that you're a fan of, and I'm not trying to put salt on the wound.
Why you gotta bring it up?
I'm bringing it up because I feel like
it's been 7 years, Britt. No,
but
it's been 8 years, Britt.
Well, you kind of led to it. I mean, you brought my mind on it.
I'm almost hoping that we fall to the 8th seed just so we can have a chance.
Well, I just said that because you made me think of the Mavericks and about what was that sense of going into the playoffs? Because that regular season, you probably were just get this over with.
Well, it was the
Wait,
year,
66?
Yeah, it was
67 wins.
Yeah, the year after that we blew. We were up 2-0 in the NBA Finals, and we were up 13 points with 4 minutes left in Game 3. And then we came back, and then we blew that. And then we came back and won 67 games, and then got beat by the Golden State Warriors. I'm a diehard Mavericks fan. I'm a diehard Oklahoma Sooners fan. I've lost national championships. I've lost semifinal. I've lost a lot of shit. I've never felt the way I felt when the Golden State Warriors beat us. It still hurt. It haunts me to this day.
Did you know that?
Other than when the Miami Heat beat us the year before.
Did you know
was
that
the worst moment.
LeBron, when he was on Cleveland, they won 65 games and then 66 games back-to-back seasons, and they only got to the finals one of those seasons.
Yeah, Dirk accepted his MVP trophy from home because they give it out in round 2.
Oh.
But that's brutal.
I basically brought that up to you, Todd, because
Thanks.
well,
I
mean, did you feel invincible going in there? I mean, obviously you're just a fan.
Well,
but did you see any possibility of losing?
Well, I mean, I remember going down to the regular season. At the end of the regular season, Golden State they won 15 of their last 20 games to get into the playoffs. So that was a game that was a team I didn't want to see. But what do you mean? Didn't want to see? It wasn't that big of a deal. But that place was rocking, man. That was when they had Baron Davis and Monte Ellis was on that team. And
Captain Jack.
Baron was cool back in the day.
Baron, and then that was when the Golden State, they started the all yellow out, and that place. I bet you that place was rocking more that series than it is now for sure.
Well,
I spoke about that, which was
very
surprising. But I understand that the fans are just
boredom. They're used to seeing a win every single night.
It's like Patriot fans.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Or when Miami was dominating for a few years, that Miami fans were not even at Game 7 or whatever.
Yeah, Patriot fans are ready to jump off the cliff because they lost in the AFC Championship. Jaguar fans would be igniting.
Oh my God, we got to the playoffs.
We wouldn't have a downtown.
No, it would be riots.
Yeah, it would be.
Riots.
There would be.
Of happiness.
I guess
Happiness riots.
A few things I researched before we started the interview that I didn't get out. These Golden State Warriors are the highest scoring team of all time, second only to that Warrior team that beat the Mavericks, which is kind of ironic.
Wow, that's crazy.
So they're on a historical scoring rate too, and I don't know, man. I mean, for 56-6, I really think they're going to lose more games this year in the playoffs than they did last year. I don't see them losing
They lost
the title.
quite a few last year in the playoffs. They lost 2 to Cleveland. They lost 2 to Memphis. Maybe that's about it.
Yeah.
What
happened in the Western?
I don't think they swept anybody. Maybe the first round.
The Rockets, they won one. Rockets only won one game.
Correct.
I think they lost. So they lost 6 games.
5 or 6 games.
I don't think they swept anybody. I could be wrong. I think minimum they lost 5 games. Maximum they lost 6.
Cavaliers swept every series.
I think as it stands,
the one that counts.
I think as it stands, Houston or Portland or Dallas if they get the 8th seed, is a way better qualified team than that New Orleans Pelicans team of last year. So they're going to have this year's playoffs is going to be tough for them, I think. And even though they're bruising everybody,
I don't know. I don't know if I agree.
No,
I think the Western Conference. I don't think the Western Conference is as good as it's been in the last couple of years.
But I will say that they're going to have to face Clippers second round, so that's going to be nice at least. They got Clippers, and then they'll have to face San Antonio
they're probably going to go
OKC.
They're probably going to go Dallas or Portland in the first round, or maybe Houston, and then they'll probably go the Clippers with Blake Griffin. That's no walk in the park.
No.
And then they're going to go San Antonio. I mean, it's
a tough road.
It's a legit road for sure.
Yeah, a lot tougher than
Cleveland has.
Cleveland has
Indiana, Miami, and Toronto.
Indiana just beat the Spurs. So, I mean, that's.
I don't know. Indiana's probably better than the Mavericks.
That's the homeless man's Golden State.
I would say Indiana's
with the way
better.
they play.
I would say Indiana's better than
I agree
the
with
Mavericks,
that.
and they're about 8 seeds.
Mm-hmm.
Because Paul George a lot of times is playing actually the 4 or even 5.
And they got guys that can take over a game. Monte Ellis can take over a game.
Yeah.
Paul George can take over a game. Well, that's about it. But
George Hill can sometimes get 12.
He can get hot.
What's your guy Mahinmi? He's playing good
for
the Pacers.
Pacers, Mahinmi. Yeah.
Mahinmi.
Yeah.
Mahimi's finally playing good.
He was part of the championship run.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, guys, unless there's anything you really want to touch on, I kind of want to just kind of flash forward to maybe what's going on for next week's episode of the Hardwood. You guys got anything pressing? I mean, I know LeBron and Steph won Player of the Month for February, so that news came out since our last podcast.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, shocker. Shocker. And I remember I said, I was listening to the show, and I said Leonard should be the Player of the Month. That's not. And Leonard had it's like you forget Steph.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, yeah, Steph dropped 54
Yeah.
times, but yeah, he's not Player of the Month because he's Steph. You know?
That's like when we talk about LeBron a lot of the times. We're like, oh, yeah, but if you exclude that's LeBron, then he's the best player. You're like, yeah.
It's crazy that he's reached that status this quickly.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, he's increased 7 points a game.
It's insane.
It's amazing.
It's insane. And I was like crunching his stats and looking over a bunch of shit, and he's not even up there in minits.
No.
Like he sits like the whole fourth quarter in like 60% of the games.
So he could essentially have a 35. If he was on a not so good team, let me ask you guys this, and I wish I asked Andy this: Can he surpass this point per game total
next year?
Or year after?
Yeah, for sure.
I could see that too.
Yeah.
His
30
shot
is
is
hard to
amazing.
break. I mean, we haven't seen 30 in a couple years.
His shot's ridiculous. It's just, I like that how fast he shoots. I honestly think if you told me like I have to shoot that fast, I'd be lucky to hit the backboard a lot of the times. Like how fast he shoots. So I mean, Oscar Robinson's stupid ass comment of like you can guard him because he shoots from his hip or whatever. Like
from 38
fuck you.
feet.
He shoots in 1 second. It's like this. It's like twist, boom, shot's already in, and you're like, whoa. Like if I was guarding him, I'm like, holy shit, I didn't even notice he shot it yet, and it's already down, and he's playing defense. So, I mean, guy's unbelievable. I don't see him. I feel like the sky's the limit. He could play. He could do whatever he wants.
It's tough to imagine anybody being able to guard him, but yeah, I just don't see it. But then again, like I still don't think of him as like I know he is, but I still don't think of him as like a dominant athlete. And probably part of that is probably because of his stature. And
like Andy said, yeah.
Yeah, in his attitude. And not that in a negative way. It's just like LeBron has this aura around him. You know what I mean? Like he's the greatest player on the planet, and he's 6'8". And when you're in the presence of LeBron, you know you're in the presence of greatness. Like that dude is enormous, and he looks like just kind of back what he was saying. And then Steph just kind of is this, yeah, you know.
Yeah, you're like, he's about Todd size.
Yeah,
you know.
He watches The Bachelor on Thursday night. You know.
I think the downfall to Steph is, like you said, his size. But just when we look back and try to compare players when it's all said and done,
I got
Steph,
nobody to compare him to.
No, but Steph didn't play 5 positions like LeBron did.
I still think LeBron's an overall better player, for sure. I mean, that's just my opinion. And
Steph's the best shooter of all time. I'll say. I'll throw that one out there.
Potentially, Potentially.
Really, Jerry?
Yeah.
Shocking call right there.
I'm gonna put this out there. It's gonna be a long shot.
Yeah.
We'll bet on it, boys. Steph might be the best shooter of all time.
Yeah.
That wave right there hit me.
How do you guys swallow that one down? Huh? How do you guys feel about that bold prediction?
Oh man.
What's next for you, Jerry?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Another big call.
Another big call.
I hate to pick on you, but
LeBron might be one of the best players of all time.
Deep.
do you agree?
That was my bold prediction number. My number 3 is
do.
Carmelo
There's more.
Anthony is the fattest piece of shit of all time. And when I watch Knicks games, I want to strangle him to death. I want to be like, you are so talented, you piece of shit. Like, how are you so lazy? I hate you.
Is it bad of me of outside of my team, the Mavericks, and like the powerhouses of the NBA? I enjoy watching Knick basketball, like right there, just to see how fucking bad they are.
They are so bad, dude. And it's so funny. It's like Melo, if he's touching the ball on, like, there's no way he's passing it.
You have
It's
to
not
get him away from Porzingis.
Yeah.
Because he's
gonna ruin
Porzingis
him. He's gonna
is
ruin everybody.
Porzingis is the man. He's gonna be.
And Melo is so bad, it's stupid. It's so bad. It's so stupid how he went from like an elite player to how selfish and shitty he is. Because he's selfish, but he doesn't knock down shots anymore. I'm like, you are horrible. You are bad.
I mean,
like, I would hate being on your team. You don't play defense. Never sprints back. He's just like kind of lollygags back. And then when he comes up, it's like, Melo took it from backcourt. There's no way anyone's going to see it. He's going to do some ridiculous move. He may or may not make the shot, but this is just shit ball to watch.
And the thing about it is he doesn't drop 40 anymore. Like, he used to drop 40 like every 10th game.
So it's like, well,
you know
Melo's
what I mean?
still a talent. He's a talent. He could score. And now it's like, well, Melo's still shooting the same. He just scores 20.
Like, when Melo goes off, he scores like 28.
It's true, and that's the headline.
On 30
Melo
shots.
shot. Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
right.
So that's that was my bold
I think we
prediction.
talk about Melo like every
because we hate him.
him.
I hate him because at some point in his career, he was compared to LeBron, and now it's like you have fallen so far below that standard. You are embarrassing.
Well, guys, I think that's going to do it for episode 42. I hope you guys enjoyed that interview. Be sure to get in touch with us on Twitter at Morning Hardwood. Go buy Jerry's work. Buy the man some lunch. He needs to get fed here. He's the only one not eating well in the room. Me and Todd are handling that for you, Jerry. But listeners, come buy this motherfucker a meal.
Come buy me a meal. I work off Belford Parkway. I'm hungry.
Well, guys, that's episode 42, and we'll be back next week. Hopefully, I'll have a midweek interview with an Orlando Magic writer.
Once again, no rhyme. Episode 42. Hope you guys stuck like glue. Todd's Jew.
Hope you got the new
I'm
Michael
1/8
Jordan
Jew.
shoe. I don't know what to do, so I got the flu, and now I'm so sick. That's why they call me. I better stop.
Back to you.
yeah, I better stop.